Good morning. This is a great day for the people of Dimiao, Ubay, Luay, Kandihay, Pilar, and for the people of Bohol in general, especially to the diocesan clergy and to the religious clergy. For this day is the 160th day or anniversary of the birth of Blessed Jose Rada. There were two blessed in the history of Bohol. These two religious lived in Bohol for a total of 20 years. Jose Rada, 14 years, Leon Inchausti, almost 6 years. And they ministered to the spiritual needs of various parishes in this beloved island. My topic today is the parish ministry of Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti in Bohol. Blessed Jose Rada stayed in 1885 up to 1898 in Bohol, and Blessed Leon Inchausti from 1885 to 1890. I thank the Diocese of Tagbilaran, the Holy Name University, the Augustinian Recollects, and the Recoleto School of Theology. You must be very familiar with Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti because they are depicted in the internal dome of St. Joseph Cathedral, Tagbilaran City during the Bishop Leonardo Medroso's episcopate. I was fortunate to visit Bohol in May 2016, and I personally gave two complimentary copies of my two books, History of Bohol, Studies, Notes, and Sources, and Holiness and Heroic Witness, Augustinian Recollect Saints and Blessed. In these two books, you can find short biographies on the martyrdom of Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti. The Feast of the Martyrs of Montreal, because these two religious belong to the group of martyrs who perished on July 25. Then the following day, also two more martyrs, July 26, and finally, Blessed Vicente Soler on August 15. They are known as the Martyrs of Montreal. Two of them, Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti, were missionaries, parish priests in the Philippines, specifically in Bohol and Romblon. The Martyrs of Montreal were Blessed Julian Benigno Moreno, a nephew of Saint Ezekiel Moreno, Blessed Leon Inchausti, second from the left, Blessed Vicente Soler, Blessed Deogracias Palacios, Blessed Vicente Pinilla, and third from the right, our own Blessed Jose Rada. Then we have Blessed Ricardo Diaz, Blessed Manuel Martin. A painting like this is seen at the Church of La Victoria of Our Lady of Victory, Nuestra Señora de la Victoria, in Montreal. There is a small chapel there in Granada, Spain, where you can find the 8 Martyrs of Montreal. They were beatified by Pope John Paul II at St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City, in Rome, on the 7th of March, 1999. There were also 2 other religious who were beatified together with the 7 Augustinian recollects and a diocesan priest. Blessed Jose Rada, a little about the life, was a native of Tarazona in the Spanish province of Zaragoza. The future curate of various parishes in Bohol in 1885 up to 1898, and the future martyr of Materiel, venerated by the Universal Church since 1999. Jose Rada was born to his father Alejandro Rada and the mother Timotea Magallon y Royo on the 17th of November 1861, 160 years today. Blessed Jose Rada entered the Augustinian Recollect Monastery or Convent of Our Lady of the Way in Monteagudo, Navarra. After 1 year of novitiate, he pronounced his monastic vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience as an Augustinian Recollect religious on September 4, 1878. He took the religious appellation Fray Jose Rada de la Virgen de los Dolores. Every Recollect always had a personal patron or patroness, and in this case, Fray Jose Rada had Virgen de los Dolores, Our Lady of Sorrows. Like his confrere, Fray Leon Inchausti, who also took the name Virgen del Rosario, Leon Inchausti de la Virgen del Rosario. Both of them continued at Monteagudo the study of philosophy and sciences. In the map you can find Monteagudo and Marsilia, Zaragoza. Fray Jose Rada was a native of Zaragoza. The Tarazona is not found there, but it is very near Monteagudo. This is the convent of Monteagudo now, where many saints and blessed lived for 1 year at least. Then the 2 Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti proceeded to their theological formation at the Recollect Convent of San Milian de la Cogolla in the adjoining province of La Rioja, and eventually finished their theology at the convent in Marsilia in northern Navarra. Thereafter, they were ready to travel in steamships to the Philippine missions via the Suez Canal. The maritime journey at that time lasted for a month. And we can see again the map of Spain. The two confreres went to Barcelona in the eastern coast, and we're ready to leave for the Philippines. On June 1, 1884, Augustinian Recollect missionaries, including the solemn Profs. Jose Rada and Leon Inchausti, boarded the steamer Isla de Cebu in Barcelona for the voyage to the Philippines via the Suez Canal, which incidentally opened on this November 17, 1869. So 152 years today. Father Jose Rada is there in the upper corner with the arrow, and Father Leon Inchausti in front. Behind him, of course, is Jose Rada, who put his hand on his shoulder. The 80th Recollect Mission expedition to the country was headed by Benito Tutor, a former parish priest in northern Mindanao and minister of Cortes and Dimiao in Bohol. 14 missionaries were in that mission expedition. They disembarked in Manila on July 1, 1884, so after a month of travel. The travel-weary Augustinian Recollect religious sojourned at the spacious and age-old, founded in 1608, St. Nicholas Convent in Intramuros, Manila. Today, the San Nicolas Church and Convent no longer exist. Both were destroyed during the liberation of Manila in February 1945. They were demolished thereafter. A historical landmark was installed there in 2006. The church and convent now are defunct. The Manila Bulletin building occupies now the same spot, and a marker is placed there in December 2006. Fray Jose Rada de la Virgen de los Dolores then proceeded to San Fernando Rey in Liloan as companion of the parish priest. Liloan was a prosperous town in the province of Cebu. Fray Jose Rada was sent there on July 11, together with Fray Leon Inchausti, to Cebu. Rada served the parish as companion or assistant parish priest of Father Emmanuel Jimenez, the parish priest in 1876 to 1893. But the purpose of Father Rada's stay in Liloan was to study the Visayan Cebuano language. According to the 1882 parish census, the town of Liloan had 1,480 tributes and a population of 7,797 souls. Take note that in order to get the population, usually more or less, you multiply the number of tributes, meaning the family that paid taxes, and you have the population or the number of souls or parishioners, whether Christian or non-Christian. So, Liloan was a bigger parish, much bigger than Catmon, Compostela, Carmen, and the towns in the Camotes Islands of Cebu. This was the church of Liloan for many, many years. After 5 months in Liloan, Cebu, He went to reside at the Immaculate Conception Convent in Cebu City on November 10, 1884. The Recollect Prior Provincial, meaning the major superior of all the Recollects in the Philippines and in Spain, Monteagudo, specifically in Martyria, issued the demissorial letters to Bishop Benito Romero for his ordination to the sacred priesthood, which took place on December 22, 1884. This was the Church of the Immaculate Conception in Cebu. Since the 17th century up to 1960, when it was demolished to give way to the present Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish, beside or attached to the University of San Jose Recoletos along Magallanes Street. At that time, there was no Leon Kilat. You can see there's a fenced piece of land there. The piece of land planted there with bananas belonged to the Augustinian Recollects. They were donated by the Augustinian brothers at that time, because at some period of this in the 1700s, the Recollects wanted to get out of Cebu City because they had no money there. They could not survive, no income. But the Augustinian friars, who are different from the Augustinian Recollects, helped them by donating a piece of land there, which is now part of Leon Kilat Street in Cebu City. And the piece of land was planted with coconuts and fruit trees. And at night, the fruits of the fruit trees disappeared because, Cebu, there are good people there and bad people also. So, the Recollects stayed put in the city of Cebu. As I have said earlier, Augustinian Recollects cannot be assigned to any parish without knowing the language of the parish. So, Father Jose Rada, after he stayed in Liloan for more than half a year, he was given the proficiency exam in the Visayan Cebuano, and he passed the exam. So he was sent to Bilar on May 7, 1885. In the map there, you can find Bilar, very far from, of course, from Tagbilaran, near Sevilla, and between Sevilla and Carmen. Father Rada was assigned as assistant parish priest of Bilar, San Isidro Labrador, Saint Isidore the Farmer, on May 7, 1885. In the yearly census sent to Manila, Father Rada reported that Bilar had 1,527 tributes and 6,871 souls during his parochial ministry. So it's quite a big town and parish. There you can find in this rare, hitherto unseen, unpublished Church of Bilar, San Isidro Labrador, and the convent there of San Isidro Labrador Parish below. This is the picture of Father Jose Rada, a young priest in Cebu and Bohol. After Bilar, he was sent to Dimiao on March 7, 1886, under the parochial administration of Father Juan Santisteban. A few days later, on March 27, he was joined by Father Leon Inchausti, who came from his parish assignment in Luay. Father Rada worked for a month in this San Nicolas de Tolentino Parish. This is the studio shot of Father Jose Rada, and as we have said earlier, Father Rada was sent to Dimiao, a town with 1,707 tributes and a population of 7,959, which was a very big town indeed at that time. During the Jesuit administration of Dimiao, founded in 1750, it had the Most Holy Trinity as patron. The invocation of the parish was Most Holy Trinity, just like the neighboring Luay. In January 1769, the Augustinian recollect miracle worker, Saint Nicholas of Tolentino, became the patron saint of Luay. It's not very difficult to imagine why the transfer of the patronage from Most Holy Trinity to San Nicolas de Tolentino. You have there a very rare photograph of the Church of Dimiao and the Convent of Dimiao. Very rare, fresh from the archives of the Augustinian Recollects in Spain. It is very easy to imagine why the change of patronage. Kay bawo mo ang mga Bulanon mahilig sa piyesta. Bisa kinsa naman. Unya, ang piyesta sa Luay, Santissima Trinidad. Unya, og mupista po ang Dimiao og Santissima Trinidad, maglisod. Ug asa mo ato, og diin ang lami nga sudan, ay diin ang lami nga litson. So, that's very clear that the Augustinian Recollect said, let us have another patron saint for Dimiao. And it was no other than the miracle worker, Saint Nicholas of Tolentino. Dimiao was a relatively bigger town. There was a typical schoolhouse built during the Recollect administration to your right, and during the American colonial period, Dimiao had another schoolhouse below and a municipio below, lower corner. In front of the municipio is the iconic image of Rizal with the overcoat. And you see also the Philippine and the American flags flying there in Dimiao. So on April 6, 1886, Jose Rada was appointed parish priest of Our Lady of the Pilar Parish of Old Sierra Bullones. So Father Rada had to go there to Sierra Bullones, which is now Pilar. In 1960, the Old Sierra Bullones became the town of Pilar. So in this town, Father Rada stayed for 2 years. On May 1st, 1888, he was transferred back to San Isidro Labrador in Pilar. 6 months later, on 27th of October 1888, Father Rada was sent back to Old Sierra Bullones. He replaced Father Leon Inchausti, who was assigned to Dimiao on the same day. We have there a picture of Father, to the left, Father Leon Inchausti, taken at the studio of C. Aguilar in Cebu, and another on the right, you have Father Jose Rada, we have there holding a cane. The cane, the staff, is a symbol of authority. Father Leon Inchausti had a book, a symbol of knowledge, meaning a priest who had studied his ministry, the books, especially the Bible, and there were young priests recently ordained. Now, what happened in Sierra Bullones? Uh, the Bishop of Cebu, Martin Garcia Alcocer, a Franciscan, went to Sierra Bullones, and Father Rada had prepared 1,000 young children and adults of both sexes to receive the sacrament of confirmation. That was the job of the bishop. 350 children were confirmed by the bishop when he returned to the curacy in 1894. In the Libro de Cosas Notables of Old Sierra Bullones, a copy of which I have, Father Rada happily recounts that the diocesan prelates overjoyed reaction to the fast-paced church project. So, Father Rada had gathered almost 250 parishioners to work in the new parish church of Bilar. It's now called, of Sierra Bullones, it's now called Pilar. He could not believe that with so few parishioners, a church could be in an advanced state as it is now. Father Rada was a pastor sensitive to the spiritual and material needs of his parishioners in the Philippines. That's why he merited a commendation by the diocesan bishop for his zeal in preparing the sacrament of confirmation and in constructing the parish church and rectory. The colonial government of Cebu also awarded him with a Medal of Civil Merit for his interest in promoting the resources of the town. He had profuse words of encouragement for the hardworking Recollect minister. In his desire for its earliest completion of the church, the bishop decided to defray the construction expenses with funds from the prosperous Maribohok town, much to the delight of the parishioners of Old Sierra Bullones. So Sierra Bullones had, in 1863, 389 tributes, or 1,754 souls. Very few indeed. Although it was established in 1863. The farms of Old Sierra Bullones produced palay, wheat, sugarcane, corn, abaca, coffee, cacao, cotton, vegetables, and root crops. Although through his assiduous exhortation, the abaca yield of the town increased significantly every year, and toward the end of 1889, he supervised 249 workers, as we have said, in laying the foundation for the parochial church. That church is still there. I visited it many years ago, and I still found the church. Very simple church. 5 years later, the main altar and the presbytery were completed in time for the annual town fiesta in October 1894. The unfinished ground floor at that time of the parish rectory was inaugurated also during his term. In 1895, he ordered from Manila the 3 church bells, still existing to this day. I found one bell there outside the church, which has up to now the inscription of Father Rada, who donated it to the people of Sierra Bullones. Sadly, the church bell is still there, broken and bungol, and it has another purpose now. The goats of Sierra Bullones are tied to that bell because knowing that the goats cannot carry away the bell because of the extreme weight. So it has another purpose. No longer for calling the people to worship at the church, but to tie the goats that might go astray. Still there. Somebody should do something about it. Preserve it. tuad dito ang pangalan ni Jose Rada de la Virgen de los Dolores. That is a very good memento, souvenir of his stay in what is now Pilar. Father Rada, after Sierra Bullones, was transferred to his last parish in Bohol, the St. Joseph Parish of Kandihay, in August 1896. In this parish, he served the parishioners for 2 years until April 10, 1898. According to one historian, he stayed there up to March. No, it cannot be. He stayed there up to April 10, according to official records of the beatification process in Rome. On account of the Philippine Revolution, which occasioned the death of many confreres in Cavite, especially, and elsewhere in Luzon, the Recollect Prior Provincial in Manila advised the ministers in Bohol sometime in February to leave their parishes and head for Manila. The exact date of the departure of Father Jose Rada from Kandihay was April 10. Kandihay now was taken over by the Recollects after the Philippine Revolution, and the Recollects stayed there for a long period of time. They were able to build a church there, at least the start of a church, and the old convent is still there, and the parish priest, I did not get his name there, is in the middle of a group of young women, young ladies there. Probably the daughters of Mary, I do not know. Hijas de Maria, ayan pala. In 1937 yan. Blessed Jose Rada passed by Negros Island after Kandihay. Because he had a classmate there, actually, all the recollects there and all the parish priests in Negros Island were Augustinian recollects. I do not know when he arrived in La Carlota, now a city in Negros Occidental. When the revolution, Philippine Revolution, at last arrived in Negros, 5 de Noviembre, a very special date for the people there, the Spaniards surrendered the garrison and the entire Negros to the revolutionaries. On November 9, Father Rada, who passed by there as a transient, he did not go direct to Manila. He passed by Negros. And when the banner of the revolution was unfurled in Negros, 35 recollects were arrested, including Father Rada. They were subjected to hard labor and tribulations at La Granja in La Carlota. I visited that place 5 or 6 years ago, and it's a very wide and greeny and hacienda in La Carlota before going up to Canlaon City and admire the beautiful Canlaon volcano. The recollects, 35 of them, by the way, not all recollects were arrested in Negros. We had the recollects of San Carlos, Bacolod, and another 2 parishes. Also by the way, the chaplain of the revolutionary troops in Negros Occidental was a recollect. So, history is not just black and white. Pag sinabi Fraile, kalaban ng mga revolusyonaryo, kalaban ng mga propagandista, kalaban ni Rizal del Pilar at Aguinaldo at Bonifacio. Hindi po. In Negros Oriental, ang chaplain ng revolutionaries under General Don Diego de la Viña was the Recollect Father Pedro Bengoa, who was scot-free in the entire Negros, especially in Dumaguete City. So, history also has some gray areas for research, and one of them is the unbelievable, believe it or not, a friar, the most hated friar during the revolution at Damaso, Fray Sibila, and others, was a chaplain of the revolutionary troops in Negros Oriental. Anyway, Father Rada disclosed how during his imprisonment, he commended his life to his Maker and prepared himself to receive the palm of martyrdom anytime. At the provincial jail of Bacolod, they were subjected to untold dignities because they had to walk from Bago, from La Carlota to, I cannot, the map is very small. From La Carlota to Bacolod City, they had to walk under the watchful eyes of the Revolutionary Guard. Then, they were jailed in the provincial jail. Strange to say, Father Mauricio Ferrero built that provincial jail, so brand new pa ang jail, and the friars were imprisoned there. Along the way, the people of Negros gave food, water, and even shelter to the friars, to the hiking friars on the way to Bacolod. The revolutionaries, most of them, unfortunately, our Aglipayan brothers. By the way, Gregorio Aglipay, trivia ito, was a product of the Recollects in the seminary of Vigan. And the Recollects tried to dissuade him from breaking the ties with the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, ayaw na ni Gregorio Aglipay. So, with Isabelo de los Reyes, they built the Iglesia Filipina Independiente. These prisoners of Negros, including Father Jose Rada, boarded the SS Montserrat for Manila. After 3 months of imprisonment in La Granja, La Carlota, they reached the safety of Manila in February 1899. So, Father Rada left the Philippines for good, and he arrived in Spain in 1899. So, this strange thing happened to Father Rada. One of his tribulations, when he arrived in Spain, he was informed that he was already dismissed from the congregation of the Augustinian Recollects. There was a case filed against him for some property maladministration in Cebu. As soon as he arrived in Spain, he was told, "You have been dismissed from the order," and he appealed. He was not given a fair trial. Furthermore, his case was decided without due process. That is, his side was not heard. Thus, he sought a proper review of his case and eventually resulted in his exoneration and consequent reinstatement in the order in 1912. So, thus far, two tribulations of Father Jose Rada. The imprisonment in Negros and now the dismissal from the order for a case he had nothing to do. He then affiliated himself to the province of St. Thomas of Villanova and volunteered to the missions in Brazil. He was appointed parochial vicar of Estrella do Sul, and in 1921, he first performed his pastoral ministry in Fazenda do Centro in Espiritu Santo. We have here the arrow there pointing to Espiritu Santo in Brazil. At age 66, very old person now, Father Jose Rada returned to Spain and lived at a convent in Lucena in the province of Córdoba as conventual. His residence at the convent of Montreal began in early 1930 until his martyrdom on July 25, 1936. Now we go to Father Leon Inchausti y Menteguilla, who was born in the Spanish province of Vizcaya on June 28, 1859. His parents were Benito Inchausti and Juana Menteguilla, who were humble but devout families. He entered the convent of Monteagudo in Navarra, which belonged to the province of St. Nicholas of Tolentino, and professed the monastic vows on November 11, 1879. He took the religious appellation of Leon Inchausti de la Virgen del Rosario. He was a very devotee, very loyal and avid devotee to Our Lady of the Rosary. He studied in Monteagudo his philosophy and sciences, and then started theology in San Millán de la Cogolla, and finished it at Marcilla, Navarra. On June 1884, he joined 13 Recollects in the mission to the Philippines, including Fray Jose Rada. His first assignment when he arrived in the Philippines was Compostela in Cebu, but he was there to study Cebuano. On November 10, 1884, the superiors issued to him the demissorial letters for his priestly ordination at the hands of Bishop Benito Romero in Cebu City. Blessed Inchausti was sent to Compostela in Cebu to study Visayan Cebuano. In this parish of Santiago Apostol, he stayed until November 10, 1884, when the superiors in Manila, as we have said earlier, issued him the divisorial letters for his priestly ordination in Cebu. He stayed presumably from November 1884 to December 1884, especially the 22nd day when he was ordained as priest at the what we have known as Immaculate Conception Church and Convent, or now Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish Church and Convent, and San Jose University of San Jose Recoletos. Father Leon was assigned in Cebu after passing the Cebuano Visayan proficiency exam to the Holy Trinity Parish of Luay. And 1885, his name was listed there. Even in the parish records, especially in Luay, there was a big bulletin board there where his name was listed, was mentioned. On March 27, 1886, after, say, almost 2 years, he was assigned to the parish of St. Nicholas of Tolentino of Dimiao. He did not stay long in Dimiao, since in 1887 he was appointed parish priest of Banton with 3,200 inhabitants. Banton, before we proceed, Banton is in Romblon. There is a marker there in Luay. I'm very sad to say that marker placed in 2004. Ang sinabi diyan, itinatag ang Luay bilang Barrio Santissima Trinidad sa ilalim ng parokya ng San Pedro Apostol ng Lobok, etc. Sinabi doon, naglingkod dito si Padre Leon Inchausti, martir ng digmaang sibil sa Espanya, na kinanunisa bilang santo noong 1999. Mali po yung sinabi kinanunisa bilang santo noong 1999. Tama po na martyr siya sa digmaang sibil sa Espanya. Hindi siya naging santo. Beato si Padre Leon Inchausti. Ang beatifikasyon, ikapito ng Marso 1999. This is the season now to promote Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti for the canonization process. We hope that with this process, with this promotion of the two future saints of Bohol, wala nang ibang magiging unang santo kundi ito si Blessed Leon Inchausti at yung kasama niya si Blessed Jose Rada. Punta tayo sa Banton. Banton is in the northern island of sa Tumoy, sa upper left corner of the map. That's Banton, an island parish located in northernmost point of Romblon. Mission founded in 1635 by the Recollects. Unfortunately, it was invaded and plundered by boatloads of Moro pirates in 17th and 18th century. So defenseless Christians were there massacred, property and harvest. These men and women were taken captive to their southern lairs in Mindanao and Hulo. The famed Padre Capitan built forts in the islands of Romblon and Banton to defend the Christian settlement. A year after, on April 30, 1888, Father Leon was sent back from Banton to Bohol and he was named Parish Priest of Sierra Bullones. And then he was put in charge of Ubay as Parish Priest. Thereafter, he returned in 1897 to Spain. So he have Banton in the northern part of the Romblon province, Romblon group of islands. He was also assigned for a while in Romblon, yung nagtitwinkle na orange. And also he was assigned in San Fernando to a small mission of Asagra, now no more, baryo na lang ng San Fernando, in that Sibuyan Island, Sibuyan, ito sa upper right corner. So he volunteered to Brazil and he had to learn another language, Brazilian Portuguese, which is similar to Spanish because the Spanish and Portuguese originated from Latin, that's why they're called Romance languages. He was assigned to Coromandel and also to Abadia dos Dorados. And from there, he will return to Spain for the provincial chapter because he was elected delegate of the province of Saint Thomas of Villanova. And the province was created in 1909. And all the convents and parishes in Andalusia, that is in southern Spain, and missions in Brazil belong to Saint Thomas of Villanova province. After 18 years in the Brazilian missions, Father Leon retraced his steps to Spain to attend the chapter. He resided for some time in the Recollected residences of Granada, and then Montreal, and then Bilbao in the north, Granada, another arrow pointing to your right, and Materiel, that star there with an arrow pointing to the left. So he lived in Montreal from 1928 when he lived 14 years until his martyrdom in 1936. This is the Church of Our Lady of Victory in Montreal. This was burned down during the Civil War. After the Recollected community was dislodged here, the church and convent were both burned down. A little farther from this Church of Our Lady of Victory was the place of martyrdom. We'll explain later what happened. This is the Our Lady of Victory Church in Montreal, Granada, Spain. In the Civil War in 1936, during the start of the Civil War, July, the Spaniards were divided into two factions, even up to the present. A very serious case of uh, total. No, the Pope said that there must be reconciliation up to now. No, the Civil War started in 1936. There in Granada, Spain was reclaimed by the Blue, the nationalists. The nationalists were the soldiers who revolted against the Republican government. The Republicans were composed of communists, Marxists, anarchists, and the red ones. The nationalists were what they call the fascists because they were helped by Germany under Hitler and Italy under Mussolini. So the fight there between two ideologies. And the red one, the Republicans, were helped by the Soviet Union, the Union of Soviet Republics. So it was a battle, a prelude to World War II. The red against the blue. Thousands of Spanish people died in the Civil War. So when the victory, we're now coming to a close, when the victory of the Popular Front, composed of Republicans, Socialists, and Communists, in the election of February 1936, the anxious Augustinian recollect friars in Montreal became anguished. The town prevented church worship, and a mob of 7,000 angry, anti-clerical, anti-church were crowded at the gates of the convent. On May 3, the demonstration was repeated, and the militias with pistols and insulted and frisked the faithful who were coming out of Sunday Mass. On July 16, all the churches in Montreal were padlocked, and on the 19th, masses were banned. Father Julian Benigno Moreno was kicked out of the convent of the nuns after celebrating Mass. Now the fateful day came. At dawn of July 25, 5 recollects, Deogracias Palacios, Jose Rada, Leon Inchausti, Julian Benigno Moreno, and Brother Jose Ricardo Diaz, not a priest, were violently dragged out of their sleep and convent, and there, not far from the convent, they were looking back at their convent now set afire. They were machine gunned to death. Their bodies, lifeless and drenched in blood, remained in the street for 2 hours, exposed to the curiosity of passers-by. No one dared cover or withdrew until the Red Cross stretcher bearers arrived and took them away. So, thus ended the life of Father Jose Rada and Father Leon Inchausti. The next day, Father Vicente Pinilla, also another missionary in the Philippines, was killed in the parish church where he had gone to say Mass, together with the parish priest, Father Emmanuel Martin, a secular priest. The 8th member of the Martyrs was Vicente Soler, a former general, a former prior provincial. He was arrested and detained from July 29 up to August 15 in prison. There in prison, he still managed to hear the confession, to pray the rosary, and give stories to the people of how he suffered during the Philippine Revolution, just like Father Jose Rada. Father Maximilian Kolbe followed his example, of course, unknowingly, unwittingly. Father Soler offered to take the place of another prisoner, a father of 8 children, was going to be shot at the firing squad. He offered to replace him, but the militia on duty said the Recollect's name was already on the list of those condemned to die. So he was shot near at the wall, protective wall of the cemetery in Montreal, Granada. This is the cemetery of Montreal, Granada, where you find Augustinian Recollect simple profess who were to make their solemn profession in 2018. We have there Father Kenneth Onda of Palawan, Father Jesriel Marcha of Surigao, Father Tomo, not Japan but of Dumaguete, and others, Jora Bacal of San Carlos. They were fortunate to visit the tomb of the Martyrs in Montreal, Granada. Meaning all those who died during the Civil War were just put there indiscreetly in that one small graveyard. And all the names of those who were killed during the Civil War were there. But mostly those who died for the faith. This is the Church of Our Lady of Victory now. One of the side chapel there, we have there the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 Father Kenneth, the master of the Prof, who visited the church and saw there the painting of the beatification process of Rome, beatification ceremonies in Rome. It was a great occasion in 1999 because all the newspapers in Spain, meaning the Catholic newspapers and the magazines of the order, featured the Martyrs of Montreal. And as usual, they always mention Bohol, Romblon, Batangas, and other places in the Philippines because 5 of them were assigned in the Philippines. Pope John Paul II in 1999 was 6 years before his death, in 2005. He's quite old, but still he managed to preside the beatification ceremony. Above him is the Martyrs of Montreal, quadro frame. This is the frame at the General Curie of the Order of Augustinian Recollects in Rome, where you can find the saints and blessed of the order. But do not just say na ito lang palang mga santo at beato. No, mayroon pa mga 200 or 300 blessed ang mga Recolletos, the Order of the Augustinian Recollects. Most of them were Japanese who were killed together with Saint Magdalena of Nagasaki during the persecution of the Christians in Japan. The 4 friars to your left were the first victims. They are all now beatified, and there's a saint there, a recollect saint, one of the nuns there. And the Martyrs of Montreal, of course, Father Saint Ezekiel Moreno, the Bishop of Pasto and former missionary of Palawan and other places. Headed on the Martyrs of Montreal is headed by Blessed Vicente Soler, holding the palm of martyrdom. So when you see a symbol, a Christian art symbol of the palm, that means they died as martyrs. During the Thanksgiving Mass of the beatification, Cardinal Eduardo Martinez Sumalo, the prefect of the Congregation for the Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, said, fully accepted the martyrs of Montreal, a Holocaust embrace, and suffered out of love for God and for souls. For love of God, they did not hesitate for a moment to proclaim their faith, and their love of neighbor motivated them to remain in Montreal in spite of the dangers and to forgive their assassins. They were already told that the convent was going to be invaded, raided, or burned. They were warned, but still they said, if it is the will of God and the mercy of God, we will prevail. But unfortunately, they were all killed, massacred. The Pope, during his sermon, during his homily at the beatification rite, said, by faith, these simple men of peace who had nothing to do with the political debate, hindi sila nakikialam sa politika. They worked for years in the mission territories, suffered a multitude of hardships. Number one, in the Philippines, soaked the fields of Brazil, Argentina, and Venezuela because 5 of them were missionaries, and started social educational programs in Montreal and other parts. When the supreme moment of sacrifice, martyrdom came, they could face death serenely, comforting the other condemned men and forgiving the executioners. Let us now thank God for the gift of this blessed, especially Jose Rada and Leon Inchausti in Bohol. For this reason, the whole church today marvels at the witness and acclaims, Lord, you are truly the Savior of the world. You are the rock from which flows living water for humanity's thirst. The Pope continues, in speaking of martyrdom, we are reminded of a tragedy both horrible and wondrous. Horrible because of the cruel organized injustice which caused it. Horrible too because of the blood shed and the pain suffered. Wondrous, the Pope says, because of the innocence which docilely surrendered to torture with no attempt at self-defense, happy to bear witness to the invincible truth of faith. Life dies, but faith triumphs and lives on. So does martyrdom. It is a supreme sacrifice of love and fidelity to Christ which becomes a witness and example, a perennial message for humanity today and in the future. Blessed are you, martyrs of Christ. May everyone rejoice over the honor paid to these witnesses of the faith. God helped them in their tribulations, and God gave them the crown of victory. May they help those who are working today for the reconciliation and peace in Spain and in the world. There is much space for reconciliation, even in Montreal, Granada, where our martyrs died. And the Pope said, may their witness be an encouragement and incentive for everyone to take this path of conversion and reconciliation with a determined will, faithfully following in the footsteps of the Blessed, whom we particularly honor today. May Mary, Queen of Saints and Martyrs, intercede for us. And I invite you, says the Pope, not to forget the eloquent witness of their faith, since the blood of martyrs of Materiel makes the church fruitful and gives her vitality as she prepares with hope to confront the great challenges of evangelization, especially now in the 3rd millennium. And to conclude, this prayer approved by the church, O God, this prayer is said on May 5, the feast of the Martyrs of Montreal. O God, who continually enrich your church with the precious gift of martyrdom, through the intercession of your holy martyrs, the priest, blessed Vicente, and his companions, grant that we who celebrate their memory may be faithful to your Son, even to death, just as they were. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Let us now prepare our devotion and practices, to know more about the lives, the sacrifices of Blessed Jose Rada and Blessed Leon Inchausti, our dear parish priest in Bohol, because these two martyrs of the faith, martyrs of Montreal, will bring glory and honor to the people of Bohol who were evangelized by the Jesuits first, and then by the Recollects, and continued by the diocesan clergy under Bishop Abit Oy and Bishop Daniel Parcon. Amen and good day. Thank you very much.